Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Game Theory, and today, well, time for another Garten of Banban video. And this one's called I Fixed Garten of Banban. So I'm guessing there's some stuff in the lore that Tom does not agree with. And I think I saw a clip of 7 where the green guy was basically fighting everybody. Yeah, I guess the developers are like, we're done, or something with that, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't play Garten of Banban, so I don't know what to expect. So, anywho, let's just get to the game theory and see where this whole thing ends up, huh? Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's check it out.
It's that time again, theorists. Garten of Banban 7 has arrived, and with it, another round of ridiculous lore. What is Syringian's plan? Who is this new Banban? And why is Razbowski giving the performance of a lifetime?
Out of all the people that the mayor could have sent, he sends you? A human? What happened to this city?
But instead of driving myself even more insane trying to solve it, I figured I'd take a note out of Syringian's book and try a more scientific approach.
Scientific?
Hello, Internet!
Okay, you got
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that puts the jive in Givanium.
Groovy, baby.
I wish I had your excitement, Austin, because today is a day that I have been dreading for a long time. I've been dreading this theory more than Poppy, more than Bendy, even more than Five Nights at Freddy's.
Really?
But we just got ourselves a brand new installment, which means it's time for me to tackle the insanity that is Garten of freaking Banban. However, let's be honest with ourselves. Each time a new installment is released for this thing, all bets are off in the lore department. There are some small underlying narratives, but despite the game giving us more notes, more secret rooms, and more characters that tried to kill us, then help us, then tried to kill us again, it's impossible to predict where this story is going. Heck, I would be surprised if the Euphoric brothers even know where it's going at this point. So instead of trying to
up on
solve
story
the
and
lore
just be like,
okay,
who else
I
can
want
we
to
add?
take a different approach. Because ever since this franchise first began, there's one aspect of Banban's world building that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. A cornerstone of Banban's entire premise that has been largely left ignored. Givanium, the green goop that has helped bring all of these mascots to life in the first place. Despite how important its mere existence is to all the events that have happened in this world, we still don't really know a whole bunch about what it really is. In this latest game, Syringian, the new red character with multiple arms and surgical tools, he seems to know a lot about Givanium. And we get a lot of notes telling us that he's worked with this stuff. But he's also keeping his cards close to his chest, telling us that he can't say anything because that information is classified. And I'd understand why. Givanium is apparently an element, a genome, artificial blood, and oh yeah, it explodes.
Like so.
I wouldn't be surprised if the reason he's so tight-lipped, metaphorically anyway, is because there just isn't an answer. It's a classic Deus Ex Machina, able to do whatever the Euphoric brothers need it to do in order to move the story along. Or at least, that's what I initially thought. Because even though Givanium seems impossible, I have found a substance, or combination of substances, that exists right now, which would take this from science fiction to science fact. And with us now having Syringian being a man, or thing, of science, I think it would be great if he weren't just spouting complete nonsense the entire time, you know? So, consider this my gift to you, Euphoric brothers. In honor of my first Banban Theory as host, whip out those copies of Ban Biology, because it's time to figure out what Givanium is really made of. The most obvious thing
Yikes. So, tackling Givanium to make it from a Deus Ex Machina to, well, something we can make in real life. Which I hope to God we don't. I don't think we need those kind of creatures running around, because, yikes. I'm just saying. I mean, at least I hope what he's doing doesn't lead to, like, real-life Givanium, because I'd be worried, you know? Jesus. Oy. You know what I mean? Just saying. Not a good idea to make, like, real-life stuff that, you know, could create monsters. Just saying. Hey. Anyway, let's just see what he thinks Givanium is, and, see what it can happen with the lore.
Can think of that gives us any kind of clue as to what this stuff is supposed to be is its name. Givanium having that ium at the end immediately reminds me of the elements from the periodic table. In fact, 79 of the 118 currently discovered elements have a name that ends in ium, so it would fit right in. The logo for Givanium also seems to align with this. We see it plastered all around the facility and it looks like it would belong alongside the likes of Mycnerium and Prasidium. These details seem to suggest that Givanium is simply a newly discovered element, but there's one big problem with that that notion. As you may be aware, elements on the periodic table aren't placed at random. They're arranged by their atomic number, which is the number of protons they have around their nucleus. Hydrogen has 1 proton, therefore it has an atomic number of 1 and is listed first in the periodic table. But take another look at the periodic image for Givanium and you'll see it has an atomic number of infinity. I don't think I need to tell you that it's not possible to have an infinite number of protons. An element has to have a set amount of them to be an element. Infinite is just a never-ending amount, and even if it were possible, it would be incredibly unstable. We see this with any element beyond element 98, californium. All of these elements have too many protons to be stable, and so they aren't actually found in nature. They can only be created artificially in a lab, and when they do, these elements only exist for very brief amounts of time. Oganesson, the largest element we have with 118 protons, has a half-life of just 7/10 of a millisecond. That's around 18.5 times faster than your brain can even process visual information. After that, it breaks down into lighter elements which are more stable. So even if Givanium was meant to be some super heavy element, it is highly unlikely that it could ever be created in large enough quantities or exist long enough to ever have a barrel of the stuff. Instead, I think the name Givanium is more of a red herring, or more accurately, it's just dubious marketing.
A placeholder?
Brands add the ium suffix to their products all the time to make them sound more scientific. The same thing goes for the infinity symbol. It's supposed to make things feel more cool and futuristic. I mean, just look at Facebook's rebrand to Meta. That's what I think we're seeing here. In one of the notes, we see that Givanium is being shipped in from another location, quote, down south. So this isn't something they're making at the kindergarten, but instead they're buying it in from a supplier that is using clever branding to promote their product. This actually makes figuring out the whole thing a heck of a lot easier, because now the only information we have to tackle is what we learn from the scientific case update reports that we find throughout the game. Besides listing their name, case number, and lore about the characters, each of these mascot reports lists one very specific detail: their genome. A genome is just another name for a creature's entire genetic code, basically their whole string of DNA. Each of us gets one genome. That's what makes us unique. My genome is going to be different from your genome, but each of us just has the one. So the fact that there were multiple genomes listed, including Givanium, immediately got me worried that we'd hit another roadblock. You just can't really have 2 full genomes at once. But I think the Euphoric brothers were actually on the right track. In one of Stinger Flynn's entries, they talk about mixing Givanium with the other genomes, which sounds to me like they're creating one genome out of the parts, or DNA, from multiple genomes. And so that got me thinking about a little scientific discovery known as the CRISPR-Cas9 complex. CRISPR is an absolute game changer when it comes to the future of genetic research. Originally discovered as part of the defense system in certain species of bacteria, you can think of CRISPR as the world's first genetic find and replace tool. Scientists who want to edit, say, the gene of eye color would synthesize a small segment of DNA that matches the gene they wish to edit. This snippet of DNA is then attached to the CRISPR-Cas9. This complex can then be inserted into the DNA of a person, and the CRISPR will go and cut out the DNA only at the place in the genome that matches the snippet. From here, scientists can add in new DNA, like the gene of a different eye color, and voila, you functionally edited the genome of one person with the DNA from a different person. And it doesn't just work within one species either. There have been experiments introducing human genes into pigs to make their organs more suitable for transplants. And there's a study going on right now to see if introducing elephant genes to humans can stop the development of cancerous tumors. Basically, with the help of
Wait, is that even possible? Do elephants ever get cancer? Huh. Interesting. Or is it that whole an elephant never forgets? That little myth? Or that phrase? It's still CRISPR. It's kind of crazy we can get there. I mean, can you imagine if we actually could, like, rewrite our DNA to be, like, part cat or something? Like, I think I remember in a Batman Beyond episode where there actually was, like, splicing, where you could change, like, part of your DNA to have, like, part animal, like, animal traits, you know, like, part bat, part cat, dog, you know, all that. Though, well, at the end of the episode, I think they let it go, but I think they put restrictions to the amount they could due to the founder going overdosing. Or at least that's how I think it went. I don't know. I haven't watched Beyond in a while, so I don't know the exact details of it all, but still, can you imagine if CRISPR got to the point where we could do that? Just say, there'd be a lot of furries walking around. Though I hope there won't be, like, any, like, species riots. Like, you know, I'm just saying, I could see that happening. Like, people getting mad, like, to the point that you're not a human anymore. Die, demon! Or something like that. I mean, I'm not laughing, but I'm just laughing, nervous laughing, okay? Because I can imagine that happening. I mean, remember Deep South, like, the segregation stuff? I feel like we're gonna head there sooner or later, you know? Oh boy. Anyway.
CRISPR, we can essentially add any gene we want into any genome we'd like. It's truly insane stuff, which seems fitting given how insane the lore of this franchise is. But there's a cherry on top of all of this. CRISPR is obviously really small. So in order for scientists to better monitor where the DNA they've added has gone, they'll often attach a special protein to the CRISPR mix called GFP, or green fluorescent protein, which, if the name wasn't a huge giveaway, is a fluorescent green color, just like the Givanium we see throughout the game. Of course, CRISPR isn't without its side effects, and it turns out we also see those in the game. One of the things that scientists are most worried about when it comes to CRISPR is the potential that this cutting process may cut in the wrong place and lead to serious mutations, something that we see time and time again to characters like Apilabird, Nabnab, and Banban when they are exposed to excess Givanium. There's also concerns that modifying one gene could affect other genes in unforeseen ways, which is probably why the game makes it quite clear that adding more than 3 genomes together is a big no-no, leading to a phenomenon known as a genome clone, where the mascot will essentially reject the other DNA and revert back to a single uncombined genome. And finally, there's a chance that the body's immune system will fight and reject whatever DNA you're trying to plug in. We see this all the time with organ and blood transplants, but the same thing is feared with CRISPR because it's essentially a bacteria. So not only might the body be fighting foreign DNA, but also the bacteria that it's not used to, leading to the foreign substance getting attacked by the body and causing immense amounts of pain, just like we hear about in the case reports. However, CRISPR can only be half the story. CRISPR explains Givanium's color, the side effects, and its ability to combine with genes from other donors, but CRISPR doesn't have DNA of its own. For Givanium to be considered a genome, as the game puts it, it would need its own set of DNA to splice itself in with whatever human or jellyfish DNA the scientists would choose. So, we need to figure out what creature the Givanium DNA is actually coming from. The problem is, there are literally millions of possible species on this planet, so narrowing it down to just one seems like it would be like trying to find a crayon in the world's largest kindergarten. Fortunately, the game does give us a couple of clues to work with. In the case report for Case 1, update number 2, we get this line about the functions of Givanium. The case mentioned in the previous report has moved an arm, as if its artificial nervous system had worked for a split second. As predicted, GV seems to provide identical functions to blood. It also had a strange physical effect. GV appears to expand in size when it is set to flow, and as a result, the case has grown a number of veins across its body. So, not only is Givanium supposedly carrying out the role of blood in these mascots, it's also able to create more complicated body structures like artificial veins and nervous systems. CRISPR can do many things, but act like blood or create veins or nervous tissue,
that doesn't sound about right.
But you know what might? Stem cells. Our bodies are made up of lots of different kinds of cells. Brain cells, heart cells, colon cells, each one programmed to carry out a specific role in the body. But not all cells are so specialized. When you're first conceived, your body is made up of a unique kind of cell known as a stem cell. Stem cells are essentially cells that don't know what they want to be when they grow up. They might become a heart cell or a brain neuron, only time will tell. Unfortunately, by the time you're born, the vast majority of your stem cells will have differentiated into all the different cell types that make up your body. However, we aren't looking for humans as our Givanium donors. On the case reports, Givanium is listed as a separate genome from humans, and in the update report, it says mammalian circulatory systems are ineffective. Now, technically, mammalian isn't a word, but I think I get where they're coming from. Basically, it cannot be a mammal-based circulatory system, and so Givanium is not only non-human, but also non-mammal. So, what does that leave us with? We need a specimen, not a mammal, with the ability to create stem cells throughout its life cycle that can be turned into whatever body part is necessary. Should be simple,
a gecko?
Right? Well, as it turns out, there's a lot of wacky creatures in this world, and some of them have the ability to grow any body part they want when it's severely damaged or even cut off. Many species of lizards can regrow their tails. Axolotls have been known to regrow their heart muscles, spinal cords, and whole other limbs. But there is one creature that knocks all of them out of the water, a goofy goofy-looking flatworm known as the planarian. When it comes to regenerational prowess, no one beats the planarian. This thing is generating stem cells indefinitely, able to create skin, vein-like structures, nerves, to the point that if you cut a planaria in half, not only does the head regrow its missing tail, but the newly severed tail will grow an entirely new head. No wonder all these characters in Garten of Banban seem to just spring back to life after being severely injured. They just need a breather to regrow and repair all the damaged bits. Not only that, but studies have shown that this newly grown head, for some reason, is able to retain and pass on memories from its previous head. If the memory gene from the planaria is being spliced into the human genomes put into these mascots, it could explain why, for some reason, these mascots have memories about the lives of their human genome donors, such as their name and occupation. Planaria don't have traditional circulatory systems either. Instead, they have what appear to be veins, but is really their digestive system, and it does pretty much the same thing a circulatory system does for mammals. It transports nutrients throughout the body. So that's a big old tick for the non-mammal circulatory system thing. And speaking of nutrients, what is the one thing we know that Banban loves to eat?
No liver, no intestines, but most importantly, no pancreas.
And you'll never guess what planarians feed on. Dead and decaying materials such as organs, including liver, and yes, pancreas. Despite the fact that according to some studies, it has proven to offer very little nutritional value to them. Maybe Banban should just stick to the vegetables.
Perhaps some of the vegetables next we collected indeed.
But we can't just say Givanium is planarian DNA and call it a day. No siree. The other genomes listed on the case reports use the full scientific names of specific species. So what planarian is Givanium from exactly? Thankfully, there's one detail that helps narrow it down: the location. There's a note that tells us that Givanium comes from, quote, our friends down south. And based on the plane ticket telling us the closest airport is Montreal, Canada, it feels pretty conclusive that our friends down south are somewhere in the United States. And while planaria aren't native to the United States, there are a handful of species that have managed to migrate their way to its shores. And one of them doesn't just do everything we've already talked about, but it also looks suspiciously like our new friend slash betrayer, Syringian. Let me introduce you all to the shovel-headed garden worm, or as it's technically called, Bipalium coense. Yeah, Syringian's head isn't an accident. According to Syringian's case reports, he's made up of only two genomes, human and Givanium. But much like how Stinger Flint's form is based on his jellyfish DNA, Syringian seems to be based more on his Givanium or Bipalium side rather than his human one. And with this being the specific species for Givanium, Bipalium coense is known for secreting a neurotoxin that can be dangerous to humans and pets. That toxin isn't mixing well with the mascot's human and animal parts. But with that, it feels like we found ourselves the source of Givanium, planarians, specifically Bipalium coense, a non-mammalian creature from the United States with extraordinary regenerative abilities, able to rebuild their vein-like digestive system and nervous system. Then just mix it in with CRISPR-Cas9 and a little green protein, and you too can create these unholy abominations in your own haunted garden. There's just one tiny detail that I mentioned right at the start of this video that I've yet to address. I had this entire theory written out and ready to go before Banban 7 dropped, and so, of course, they had to throw one final curveball at me. Givanium explodes. Why? Why would you do this to me? We were this close to a clean run. It's okay. It's fine. We can do this. Deep breaths. Whew. The reason this is initially such a problem is that DNA isn't explosive or flammable. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Researchers have found that DNA is a great flame retardant substance and are experimenting with coating highly flammable materials like cotton with it. However, what if it's not the DNA exploding, but the barrel the Givanium is stored in? Take a look at the explosion. It's not a fiery explosion like the others we've seen in the games before. There's an immediate flash with some sparks, and then there's just a pillar of white smoke. That looks less like the burning of a flammable substance like plain fuel, and instead more like when a pressure cooker explodes. Why would that be the case here? Well, as we've discussed, Givanium contains DNA, and it is common practice to store DNA in liquid nitrogen so that it doesn't degrade. Now, liquid nitrogen has a temperature of -196 degrees Celsius or -320 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a problem because most places aren't that cold, and so it heats up, turning from a liquid into a gas. This wouldn't be an issue so long as it's stored in a container with a loose-fitting lid and not not, oh, I don't know, an oil drum? Those things are known for having tight seals, and they've been left out at least since Bring a Friend Day, if not well before that. And so the nitrogen gas continues building and building and building until we hit the final nail in the coffin by lighting the drum on fire. How we do that, I'm not exactly sure. It's not like there's a fuse or anything, but regardless, that extra heat clearly tips it over the edge, heating up the gas to the point where it can no longer be contained, and then boom. An explosion of gas with the metal barrel breaking apart and scraping against itself, causing sparks to fly. Given how all these containers have been left out for a while, maybe we'd be best to avoid them going forward. But there you have it, theorists, the scientific answer for what Banban's mysterious Givanium truly is. By paleo-coense DNA combined with CRISPR and green fluorescent proteins, all stored in giant vats of liquid nitrogen to keep them stable. Is this going to be the answer we're given in the final Banban game? Well, Banban 304? Probably not. But I'm hoping that the Euphoric brothers see this video and maybe, just maybe, we can steer at least part of this franchise in a more realistic direction. Wouldn't that be something? And hey, if you guys want mascot horror, good luck. I'd be happy to help out. I'm just a DM away. Who am I kidding? You guys are just gonna say it's alien blood, aren't you? But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
And if finding out the...
Yeah, honestly, I could see that happening, but jeez. You really gotta be careful when you deep dive into something, you know? Just saying. You tend to lose yourself. Well, anyway, there you go. The game theory on Garten of Banban in Givanium. You guys agree? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was alien blood. Maybe a alien ship crashed there. Anyway, until next time. See ya.